Welcome into a special edition of the Jackson Sun West Tennessee Sports Podcast here on jacksonsun.com. I am Sun Sports columnist Brandon Shields, sitting here in a different scenario. Usually when we tape these things, first off, I'm sitting here with Michael Odom.
Well, thanks for bringing me into this.
Yeah, it's kind of like writing a game story and you forget to put the final score in there. You just forget some fairly important piece of information.
And you actually had the same exact quote that Dave Roberts had tonight after his fourth quarter comeback. It was a different scenario.
A different scenario. There we go.
Never been down big numbers in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, but usually when we record these things, it is a scenario, different scenario. Usually when we record these, we're at your house. Tonight we decided, after we get done with basketball coverage on Tuesday night, we're both here at South Gibson. You were here covering, I live close by, so let's just go ahead and get into recording this thing and get it out there for the people. The subject of this one is we have our first state tournament game locally going on Friday afternoon in Nashville, as the Division II state tournaments are going on this week. And USJ girls made it to the state tournament. They play at 1 o'clock.
1:15.
1:15 on Friday p.m. At Lipscomb University. And Michael, I guess just kind of first off, talk about the tournament. It's not like Division I. In Division II, only 4 teams go to the state tournament. So they only got to win 2 games to come home with the state championship. Kind of talk about just kind of the teams that are there.
Yeah, it's 4-team tournament. You're already a semifinalist. Boys and girls are played on the same day in D2A. So you have a girls game that morning at 10, then a boys, and then we'll go to USJ at 1:15, and then we'll finish out the day with a boys game. The morning game is North Point Christian at 26-2. We'll take on Harding, 24-8, and then USJ, who's 28-3, plays BGA, who's 16-11. The 2 winners will play on Saturday at 5:30.
All right. Well, since we've got the teams that are there and the records, obviously the reason why we're doing this is because of USJ. So we'll obviously focus on them for most of this. So first off, just kind of let's get into talking about USJ's road to get here. Obviously, it looks like a road that there were very few bumps in with a 3-loss record. How many wins?
28.
28-3. And 2 losses in the regular season, 1 to Dyersburg.
By 3 when they still had Shamira Thompson, their point guard.
Dyersburg had Shamira Thompson.
Yeah, Dyersburg still had their point guard and Shamira Thompson. Much different team with her and without her.
Right, yeah. And then their other loss was to Munford.
Who's they lost both games. They lost to by 3 points.
Then they kind of rolled through their district schedule through the month of January. I did a feature on that a couple of weeks ago. Their average margin of victory against other Division IIA competition that they played after Christmas, I think they averaged 48.5 points, not points scored. That's how much they averaged winning by. So they had kind of an easy road. They were a good team in a weak district. They get to the region tournament and kind of fill us in on what happened there.
They opened up with an easy win over Memphis Catholic.
St. Mary's Middle School.
No, St. Mary's has been an opponent before in the quarters.
Right.
But this week was this year's Memphis Catholic. And then in the semis, they beat Harding Academy, who's at the state tournament. Mm-hmm. But then they lost to North Point, who is also at the state tournament. In the finals, they had played FRA, beat them by 20 in sub-state. And so here we are in the state semifinals.
Just the fact that they lost that game to North Point. Were you at that game?
I was.
Okay.
Oh, no, North Point, no.
Okay, you weren't at the North Point.
I was at the FRA game.
Okay. Well, just kind of from what you remember of the coverage of the game, I know we had somebody there at it. Actually, no, we probably didn't because they were down in South Haven. My apologies. But just but you've talked to Coach Schutz a couple of times since that game. You covered their sub-state game last week. In bringing up this game, the North Point loss, was North Point that good? Did they have an off night? Were they overconfident in their really good record?
North Point's that good. They were that good, and they got up early, and USJ didn't do well playing from behind.
And that was something that I remember talking, because I covered that region quarterfinal game against Memphis Catholic. And I remember asking Coach just kind of, if they get in a close game, how are they going to respond and stuff? And he said, well, that's kind of a big reason why we scheduled so tough in non-district before the district schedule started, to push these girls, because we knew maybe not necessarily that they were going to dominate the district, but just based on what everybody had coming back and stuff, that it was very likely that they weren't going to get tested a lot. So, but they bounced back, last week against FRA. You were there at the sub-state game. Just from what you saw last week, how are they looking going into this tournament?
I mean, they played well. I mean, when you have a Miss Basketball finalist on your team, and 3 of the 4 teams here have Miss Basketball finalists. Anna Jones is a finalist. Mm-hmm. North Point's Ashton Baker is a finalist, and Harding Academy's Antoinette Lewis is a finalist. So, how Anna Jones plays is how USJ is going to play. And so Anna Jones is kind of going to be the key. She's going to have to play like herself and put up the numbers that she's capable of for them to try and win 2 games here and win a state title. That
does kind of bring up one point that I wanted to talk about. In years past, well, first off, USJ hadn't made it this far in the last few years.
2005 was the last time they played in the state tournament.
Right. But mainly talking about this group, why they haven't made it is because Anna has kind of been the one that opposing teams just had to key on, and if you stop Anna, you stop USJ. Coach Schutz told me that was a big point of emphasis in the off season, that they weren't going to be a one-person or one-girl show. And that seems to be, obviously Anna is the centerpiece, but the parts around her, the supporting cast, seems to play a bigger role than what they have in past years.
This is a team with 5 seniors. 3 of them are starters. You have Anna, and then you have a guard and a post player. And, looking at the guards, you've got Morgan Williams, who's a senior, and Callie Pickens are your 2 starting guards, along with Anna, who could play any position on the floor.
Right.
And Morgan's kind of the key to their defense. If she's up in people's faces and able to create some havoc, then they're going to be successful. Callie Pickens she's one that takes care of the ball. You're not going to expect her to use her speed, but she's going to, hit some open shots. She's good at the foul line. So both of those players are capable of having big games.
And which I know you're going to have at best a limited knowledge of the other 3 teams, but you've had a chance to go and do some research and stuff. With the competitions they're going to face this weekend, they face BGA on Friday. First, talk about BGA. Just kind of what kind of challenge do they bring in for these Lady Bruins on Friday?
BGA does have 11 losses, but they've won 7 of their last 8 games. They've got 6 seniors on this team, 3 juniors, 6 sophomores, so they seem to be a veteran club. They're 16-5 against D2AA. They haven't fared as well in the other divisions. They're 2-1 against Class A and D1, 0-4 against Class AA, with losses to Page, Lipscomb Academy, Pearl Cone, and CPA. None of those are bad losses.
Right.
But you got to look. One team that they have played in common is FRA. USJ beat FRA by 20, even though FRA had a 1-point lead early in the third quarter. Mm-hmm. When BGA played FRA, they lost to them by 25 and by 7 during the season, 71-46 and 40-33, much different game.
Right.
But they beat them in the district championship by 3 to kind of get to this spot. And put themselves in the position to get to the state tournament.
Was that 25-point loss the first time they played them?
Yes.
So that just shows a continual improvement throughout the season.
Maybe they had a player hurt early in the season. I mean, there's lots of factors that could have led to that 25-point lead. But I think you could say that BGA and FRA are probably pretty even. So if you're USJ, you've got to be confident thinking if we play to our potential, we have a good opportunity to win this game.
What about the other two teams?
We know North Point. USJ played North Point. Ashton Baker's their key, who is a Miss Basketball finalist. But Lindsay Whiteside was the MVP of the region tournament, who's another senior. North Point's only lost twice, and that's to Memphis Central. And they're playing in the AAA sectionals here this weekend.
Probably going to make it to the state tournament.
Yeah. One team that we know that's played Memphis Central has been Haywood. Both of North Point's losses to Memphis Central by 1. Haywood lost by 23 and 31. So this is a very good North Point team. And they've won 18 straight games. So, you'd say North Point's probably the favorite. But you can't rule out Harding with Antoinette Lewis, the Miss Basketball. They've lost to North Point twice so far this season by 13 and by 34. So you'd have to say North Point's kind of the favorite to get to the final. And be a potential opponent if USJ gets through. Like I said, USJ did play Harding. They beat them in the semis pretty easily. Good defense. North Point's your defending state champ. Another good thing, BGA hasn't been on the stage. We said earlier, USJ hasn't been to state since 2005, and that was in Class A when they made the finals and lost to Trenton Peabody. BGA hasn't been here since 1996.
Wow.
Their all-time record at the state tournament is 0-1.
So they were never there before 1996 either.
No, 96 is their only appearance. That was before D2, so they probably made the Class A state tournament and lost their first game and went home in 96.
Right. And before we move on to our next point, I just want to add something. Going back to North Point Christian, you said their two losses were to Memphis Central, and Memphis Central beat Haywood soundly. Haywood is led by one Jamira Schutz, whose uncle is USJ head coach Tony Schutz, and now the circle is complete.
Yeah.
Okay, anyways, that just popped in my head. I just want to throw that out there just to...
And that was back when Haywood was not playing. That was when they were 2-8, and
right.
That's not on their 20-game winning streak they're at now.
Right. Well, we got a little less than a couple of minutes left. Just kind of, what other kind of nuggets or parting shots do you have for us? As you're getting ready, you'll be the one going up to Nashville and covering this one game, possibly two games. Just kind of, how do you feel? If you were to, I'm not saying pick whether or not they're going to win the championship or anything, but just kind of how do you feel about their chances going into this?
No, I feel like the key for them is going to be the post play, and that was kind of the key against FRA. We talked earlier about Anna Jones and Morgan Williams and Callie Pickens, but the key against FRA was Ashton Hulme and Taylor Tenpenny didn't play well in the first half. Hulme got 3 fouls in the second quarter. Tenpenny, Schutz said he had to, have a stern talking with her and kind of refocus her.
Right.
She just wasn't playing as herself. She was also getting over the flu. So I think that those two are going to be two big keys. If they're able to go out there and assert themselves underneath the basket, especially Hulme, how she did in the second half against FRA, I think that gives USJ a good shot at pulling off a win over BGA and reaching the final.
All right, well, Michael, you'll be up there, 1:15 tip-off, unless there's some overtime in one of the games before, but 1:15 is the scheduled tip-off time for that game. Lipscomb University in Nashville. TWSAA televising these things, streaming?
Not till the final.
Okay, so maybe if they win, you get to watch them on Saturday on the web if you're not able to go up. But good luck to the Lady Bruins.